Shalom everyone, and this time we are going to learn Parashat Ki-Tetse. It's in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21, starting from verse 10. Ki-Tetse למלחמה על אויביך, meaning in, not literally, but what it really means, when you wage war against your enemies, ונתנו אדוני אלוהיך בידיך, and God, your Lord, will give him in your hand. ושבית שביו, and you take his spoils. And this is really timely because we always reading that in the middle of the month of Elul, Virgo. Why? Of course, when you read the literal simple story, it's about all the rules of war, and that started earlier in Parashat Shoftim. I think that goes in the beginning of chapter 20. Yes, the beginning of chapter 20. It starts the same words, Ki-Tetse למלחמה, as you wage war. Okay? So why the parasha is not starting page 20, on chapter 20, verse 1? Why waiting till chapter 21, verse 10? But the point is that today we are not dealing with this physical war. However, because it doesn't apply always about waging a war against your enemies, but there is something much more important, which is how does that apply to me, a normal human being? Okay, and here we're talking about the internal meaning of the Torah, and you learn about it from the structure of the verse. And many sages are asking, Ki-Tetse למלחמה על אויביך, when you wage war against your enemies, in plural, and then in the same sentence, ונתנו אדוני אלוהיך בידיך, and the God your Lord will give him single in your hand. How you don't start a sentence with plural and finish it with single. That's like, and the Torah is very strict about grammar. So the moment you have inconsistency with the grammar, you know there's a hint, which means there's an expression in Hebrew about it, זה אומר דרשני. This insists, which means this contradiction, this misunderstanding says, it speaks by itself. It speaks by itself, and what does it say? It says, study about me, because I'm forcing you to study deeper. And the question is, how can you talk about this issue, starting with plural and finishing with single? And the answer is very simple, and we have to remind it to ourselves always. First of all, how many times do we wage war against someone and we go for war? Even in the ancient times, it was not something of a daily issue. So what does that part has to tell me? And because every sentence, every verse in the Torah has 4 layers of understanding, and I must understand the deeper layers in order to find what's in it for me. And what's in it for me is the real, only meaningful war that we wage is the only war in our lives, and that's the war we wage against our dark side. Okay? If somebody tells us that he has no dark side, that he does not have an evil inclination, that he does not have shortcomings and all kinds of sides that he did not control yet, he would be lying about everything. Okay, because the moment you're not aware what's the point of our existence, you will not understand anything else. And what's the point of our existence? As a human being, we are souls brought into physical limited bodies. Why limited? How much can we see? Okay, we all know if we study Kabbalah, at least we have the humility to understand that whatever we see is only a very small fraction of the true reality we are part of. Which means what we see around us is elusive. So the moment I know that my body limits me to see only a fraction of reality, which means I don't really, how many times, and I repeat this question so many times, how many times we thought we knew what's going on, and then we realized later on that we had totally had no idea what is going on, even in our own profession. Let's say I am a professional physician, or physicist, or a chemist, or a psychologist, or a painter, and I see a problem and I know how to solve the problem. How many times as I go into solving the problem I realize that I was blind and I didn't really see the case, and now that it unfolds in front of me I'm in a trouble, and it takes me a while to see the case and to understand and finally to find the solution. Why? Because you can't trust your eyes. You hear stuff, how much of it do you really understand? You can listen to someone, he tells you something that is very important and you don't really get it. And you'll realize it, and sometimes it's too late. Things like this do happen a lot. Why? Because we have a physical limited body and we have a divine godly soul instilled, captured, jailed in that body. And the soul has to earn its freedom by overcoming the limitation of the body, which means the body, which without the body we do not have a dark side. Why? A soul does not have greed. Why? Because a soul cannot collect properties. A soul cannot register the property in, you know, in the offices of the city offices. A soul cannot collect gold and cannot use not gold and not food and other luxuries, which means it's only the body who has the desire for that stuff. So the question is again, why are we here? If we are here because our soul wants the divine, wants the spiritual light, wants the godliness and the ability to connect to the upper realms, we are here because we want to earn it. And the only way to earn it is to come into a physical body. And our war of independence from the limitations of the body, its desires, its emotions and stuff like this, when finally we win in that ongoing war, then we can say we can earn eternity. And that's what we're doing over here. Every human being is part of that war of humanity for achieving enlightenment and godliness. So when we say, as you wage war against your enemies, it's exactly what we just said. We think we have enemies. Who is the enemy? So in the beginning of the day, the enemy could be tiredness. And then the enemy could be a partner, a client. The enemy could be a competition. The enemy could be somebody in the government over-regulating stuff. Or, there's so many words around. It could be a germ, a virus, bacteria. Could be mosquitoes. There's so many. It could be the weather. It could be the climate problems, and so on and so on. We can talk about So many enemies we have. Okay? However, when you study spirituality, you have to commit to accept the idea that your brain, which is not always on your side, okay? Our brain, most of the times, cooperates with the enemy. How? The brain is, first of all, made of a physical body. And when we get into the fight or flight or freeze mechanism, which is really instinctive, animals have it, we have it, we become blind. We do not see the picture. And of course, the brain tells us who's the enemy. And it's always somewhere else. Here's the enemy. It's not me, it's the enemy. Okay? If it's me, it's only in the bedside of having guilt. Okay? But when we really get the experience out of ongoing war, we realize, as the Torah is saying, "Unetano Hashem Elokecha beyadecha," and God will give him in your hand. Why him? Because there's only one enemy. The one enemy, the one and only one, is the dark side of ourselves. Which means, why? But there's a clear evidence that some people put obstacles on our way which are not right. You know, we can have all the proofs in the world that somebody else did just injustice to me. Okay, does that mean that he is the enemy? No, the enemy is the way I react to that injustice. If I react in a way that is anger, upset, guilt, frustration, and so on, what I do at that moment, I am listening to my own enemy, that his interest is that I will look somewhere else to see the enemy. What does it mean? It's like a person coming home and there's a horrible thing. There's a thief in the house. So the thief is running out of the house, jumping out of the whatever. He's running out, and so he's on the street. So the person that was robbed goes out to the street and is starting to yell, "Robbery, robbery, robbery, thief, a thief, a thief." So the neighbors are coming out from their homes and they're running on the street, and they're running after the thief. And they see the thief, and the thief is starting to scream, "Robbery, robbery." And they ask him, "You're just in front of us. Where is the thief?" He said, "He went that way." So everybody's running that way, and the thief is going the other way. So what is that about? The enemy is only within. Whatever is happening around us is orchestrated to happen in order to give us an opportunity to elevate ourselves, which means we have no free will about the injustice around us. We have no control over other people's emotions, opinions, ideas, and decisions. However, their behavior, or whatever, it could be an act of God, as it says in the insurance policies, whatever is happening and it's not under our control, it is orchestrated, as I said before, to give us an opportunity to rise, because it's only natural, and it's very natural to every human being to be upset this way or another to all kinds of stuff that is happening. It could be a flood, it could be a drought, it could be a lightning striking the house, a fire, could be injustice that other people decide to do unto me. All of that stuff, I have no control over that. But I do have a control over, I'm supposed to have a control over my reaction. My reaction is the key for everything. Because here, because my only real, true enemy is within. That's my dark side. Which means, if I react to something that is not comfortable that is happening to me, if I react with anger, frustration, uh, feeling of humiliation, hurt, okay, what happens to my ability to win, to achieve, to reach out, to grow, to become a winner in anything if these emotions are controlling me? When I'm being seduced by all kinds of, everybody, each one of us knows what seduction is about. For some people, it's food. For other people, it's sex. So other people is some chemicals, drugs, alcohol. We could be addicted to other people. There's so many ways that we can be seduced in a way that we lose it because we have that need and desire and urge to jump over and to lose everything just to get the immediate satisfaction. Okay, how many times a day do we have to fight those those uh, those moments, those challenges? So we all know that if we think deeply, if when we become more spiritual individuals and we can realize the temptation, the emotional temptation, the seduction, to be right, to be upset, to be angry, to be feel humiliated, to feel like a victim, or to jump over the temptation and to lose our head about it. All of that stuff. We know it's the hardest thing in the world, but each one of us, if we think about it deep, deep, deep within, if I can overcome that reaction, that need to react in a certain way, wouldn't my life look much better? If I can overcome the negativity that floods me, overwhelms me, when I meet those challenges, if I become a person that I can overcome all of these enemies just because my nature will become more serene, complete, whole, enlightened, and powerful, wouldn't my life quality change dramatically? And the answer, if we think about it, we can't get away from the idea that, of course, we'll become much better people, and our chances to achieve greatness, victories in every field are much higher when we can win against our own true enemy, the dark side within, the evil inclination. So now we can understand the verse. As you wage war against your enemies, we have so many enemies. But if we realize that the enemies are not outside, the enemies are the emotions within, the frustration, the anger, the giving up, the victimization, the lust, the greed, the all of those tendencies that we are born with them or we develop it later. The fear, the all of those negative emotions that belittle us. As we wage war against them, we realize it's only one enemy, our darkest side. When you realize that, God will give him into your hand in one condition, that you wage war against him. That you realize it's an enemy. You don't think, how many people they get upset, but that's what I feel. What do you mean that's what you feel? But that's a real me. Is that the real you? When you woke up this morning, if somebody came to you, a loving person that you know, and said, my dear friend, how do you want to feel today? Would you say, I can't wait to hate, to be frustrated, to feel like a victim, to be upset, to be seduced by something that will empty you from your powers? Would you say that? No, of course not. Why? Who is a normal human being that is sane will say that. I can't wait to feel hard, to feel negative, to feel bad, to feel dark. Who would say that? So who will tell me that being a victim of feeling hatred or feeling seduced is the real me? It's not. It's not. It's a fake me. Only when it takes over, it pretends to be me. Deep inside, I know it's not me. If I was just a better, different person. Oh, so you really want it to be. So it's not you. It's not your real desire to be angry. You want to solve the problem. That's your real desire. If you're being asked, of course I want to solve the problem. Of course being angry is not a mission and it's not a goal. Okay? And then now we can ascend, and then you can take his spoils. What does it mean, his spoils? So many sages say, when you fight, when you commit to fight your enemies, and then you realize it's only one enemy using many faces, your dark side, and you wage war against him, and you don't give up, then God will give him in your hand. Then, when you win against him, you'll get his spoils. What do I mean, his spoils? He captured your divine soul into captivity. When you win against him, you get back your soul. That's capturing his spoils. And then it says, "V'ra'ita b'shivya eshet yifat," and you'll see in captivity a beautiful woman. Who's that beautiful woman? Your soul, your beautiful soul. And you fall in love with her. Finally, you find your soul and you realize who is the real you. So, why is that important in the month of Elul? The month of Elul, the month of Virgo, is the month that I explained many times, is the month we can see what's wrong better than any other month. That's what Virgo is about, the perfectionism. To see the imperfection even though it's hiding behind so many layers of disguise. So now that we are during the month of Virgo, this is the time to see those imperfections and to wage war against them. Because if we wage war against them, we'll get the help. We will get the help because by ourselves, we cannot win against the evil inclination. We always need a divine help. Okay? We always need a divine help. And that's what's important. To understand that, we go to the end of the Parasha. The end of the Parasha, of Parashat Ki-Tetse, is one of the most important paragraphs of the whole Torah. It's Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 17. Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Remember what Amalek did to you, בדרך בצאתכם ממצרים, on the way when you left Egypt. אשר קרך בדרך ויזנב בך כל הנכשלים. That he met you on the way and he destroyed the ones who were behind. When ואתה עייף ויגע ולא ירא אלוהים. When you are tired, and you have no awe of God. And then it says, when God will give you some rest from all your enemies, remove the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. Do not do not forget. This is one of the most important paragraphs in the whole Torah, if not the most important. Why? Because when it's being read on the Shabbat Zohar, the Shabbat before Purim, everybody has to go and listen to it. And this Shabbat, we have another opportunity to listen to it. And nobody is exempt. Sick people, pregnant women, whatever. Usually on Shabbat, if you can't and it's really uncomfortable, so you didn't make it. On Shabbat Zohar, you must listen to it. Why? Who is the Amalek? Amalek is known by all the spiritual teachers. Amalek that we're speaking about, we're not talking about an ancient, terrible, vicious nation that lived some 33 centuries ago. We are talking about something else, because who is the Amalek? You can't see them. Okay? You can figure out maybe he's Amalek because his behavior fits, but that's none of my business. My business is to find the inner Amalek. That sound, as we said before, that listening to my bedside is okay. When I'm angry, I'm be justified. You're supposed to be angry. You have to vent your anger. That belongs to psychology of the 1960s. Okay? That's the middle of the previous century. That's the end of the previous millennium. Okay? But later on, so many scientists realize that when you listen, when you let the anger take over you, and you vent out your frustration, it just makes it much, much worse. When you let the negative emotions and ideas and obsessive thoughts take over you, it deteriorates your health, your state of mind, your ability to deal with all the challenges that life is setting in front of you. That's what life is about. A day without challenges is a lost day. What are we here for if not facing challenges and winning? Okay, transforming the challenges into victories and achievements. That's what we are here for. Any kind of challenge. She said, he said, they didn't, he made it, whatever. Does not matter. All of these are there for us to arouse within ourselves the awareness, here's my enemy. That's my anger, that's my frustration. This is the enemy. And this is the enemy I have to fight. The moment I wage war against the enemy, how can I fight him? There's a prayer repeated some few times on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. God, we want you to forgive us for all our sins. We would promise that we'll never sin again for the next year. But how can we promise something like this? Because we know that the angel of darkness, our evil inclination, our dark side, he is fire and we are flesh and blood. We can never, usually we fall. So we cannot promise anything. We just ask you, give us another opportunity. Okay? And and Rabbi Ashlag adds to it about removal of the Amalek. He says, how can we kill those moments, those tendencies that we have to forget everything, to forget the light, to forget the creator, to forget the creation, to forget what we're here for. And how can we fight it? And Rabbi Ashlag says something that is very important. It is a rule expressed in the Talmud in Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 52, side B, שאין עבודה זרה נבטלת אלא בעובדיה. An item of idol worshipping, witchcraft and dark magic cannot be destroyed really only by someone that belongs to that idol worshipping. Okay? Why? Because there is the rule of similarities. כי אי אפשר להכות את הרוח בגרזן. You cannot beat the wind with an axe. Okay? They are not from the same thing. רוח מכה ודוחה רוח. Only one wind can beat another wind. Only iron can beat the iron. Hard stuff and hard stuff. And since the whole thing about the Amalek is a mental energy of darkness, but it's a mental energy. It's nothing physical. Okay? Because it could be somebody could be tall and fat, slim and short and tall and fat. It's all of that. It doesn't matter. All of us, we have dark side, and that dark side is nothing of the matter. It is a metaphysical energy. You cannot take anger and put it in a box and store it for later. It's energy, but it's not an energy that belongs to the physical world. And since the Amalek is the tendency to destroy with despicable emotions, destroy whatever is good inside us and outside us, with no respect for any divine power, that's the nature of the Amalek. The only way to destroy that power of the dark side is with the power of the Creator. Only the power of the Creator. We can see today so many people that are very hateful, angry, and they feel righteousness about it. They are always going against the bad guys. And because of that, they justify anything they do against the law. It's all for the great cause. And one of the big things you see about these kind of people, they're totally against the existence of God. Did you ever try to explain to them? I'm not talking about God. Explain about, the basic rules of society. Most countries have it in their constitution. You can't go against the laws. Did you ever realize there's no understanding? And Rabbi has to explain why there's no understanding. Because what activates them is not logic. It's not real justice. What activates them is bitterness, upset, anger, victimization. These are energies of divine force. Not divine, I'm sorry, of a metaphysical force. The only way to destroy the metaphysical force of the dark side is with the metaphysical force of the light of God. It's the only way. The only way. So that's what the Torah is saying, Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek. Remember what the Amalek did to you. When? This morning, yesterday, all of those ideas and thoughts of being frustrated, being upset, that urge to say, give it up. Why do you want to be a positive person? Why do you want to be patient? Just curse and be hateful and you're right. Whatever they done to you, you're right. You'll be right doing that. I'll be right, but I'll be dead right. It doesn't make me stronger, more powerful, and wiser. It doesn't make me more lucky to have all those negative emotions. Who incites me to do that? That's called Amalek. That's called Amalek. So how do I fight the Amalek? In this parasha, we have some tools. And if we go to the Zohar of this parasha, which is the most powerful revelation. And it starts with the with the with the story. It's again a story from this parasha, but it doesn't start from the beginning. It starts from the middle, and in the middle of the parasha there is a law. There are many laws. It's a set of laws, and it says in this law, in case a man marries a woman, okay, and then he took her, and he hated her, and then he starts to badmouth her. And he starts to tell lies about her. He said she was not a virgin, she's not this, she's not that. Doesn't matter. And now they check it. And they find that he lied. He has to be punished. Why? And then we come to Deuteronomy 22, verse 19. As it says there, ואנשו אותו 100 כסף, ונתנו לאבי הנרע כי הוציא שם רע על בתולת ישראל. And they should fine him 100 silver. They should give it to the father of the girl, because he badmouthed the Virgin of Israel. Now you have to know, if in Hebrew the word betulat Israel, betulat Israel, it does not mean a Jewish virgin. No. When it says betulat Israel, it's a general expression saying the Shekhinah, the divine presence. It doesn't mean the virgin, one Israelite virgin, as you could understand, but you never say that. You never use it. Betulat Israel means the Holy Spirit. Okay? Because he badmouthed the Holy Spirit. What does that mean? And the Zohar goes into the whole explanation. Why is it so important to study Kabbalah? אוי לאלו שאוכלים תבן ושיבולים של התורה. And he says, you know, the Torah, it's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Torah is so rich. And you know, one of the main sources of nutrition for humanity is grains. And how do you get grains? They don't grow on the shelves of the supermarket. Okay? They're being planted. You know, the seeds are planted somewhere. Okay? And then they grow. In the beginning, they look like grass, green grass, and then it grows into, finally you have the crops. But what do I mean you have the crops? The crops, when you do the harvest, you get tons of stuff. Can we eat that stuff? Of course not. You have to sort out the grains from the straw. Okay? However, the Zohar says the Torah is like the whole thing that comes out from the harvest. Can you use all of it? Of course you can use all of it. You don't want to waste any of it. The straw you store for the cows, the sheep for the winter. Okay? And then you get milk, you get meat for that. Okay? The grains, you take them, you grind them, you make flour out of them, and you can bake all kinds of pastries so you can feed yourself with it. However, somebody who studies the Torah without Kabbalah, says Zohar, it is like you do the harvest, you take the grass, the straw, and you try to digest it, and you throw away the grains. And he explains it, why, what does it mean? And he says, just to make it short, it's very, very important to understand what we're just saying. If a person is not developed spiritually, he falls into the pit of the dark side, not daily, hourly, every few minutes. Why? The moment that you know that your real true enemy is the Amalek, it's your own dark side, the moment you know that, then every reaction of, you already know, you train yourself daily that when the anger comes to the surface, when the frustration, when the lust, when the all of that stuff is coming, and you have to fight it. And first of all, you have to know that that's the enemy. It's not you. It is the enemy. So you can disassociate yourself from that emotion, for that opinion, for that way of looking. But if you do not disassociate yourself from that, so what happens? You start to blame. It's not that you're blaming another person, that he destroyed you. It's not that you blame the drugs or the drug dealers or the alcohol or the guy who sold you alcohol as a teen. It's very easy, but we learn. When we blame somebody else, we blame somebody else. One finger points at them. Like, they did it to us. They are responsible for my pain. That's that finger. And that finger is a problem because we read on the two tablets, it says you should not have other gods beside me, says God. The moment I blame somebody else or something else, the weather, the drugs, the food, the moment or other people, vicious people, terrible people, that everybody knows that bad. But the moment I blame them, what do I say? I say they are responsible to my destiny. They hold the control over my destiny. As long as they do not change, my destiny will be horrible. In that moment, you are worshiping those idols, because those enemies, they are your God. You worship something or somebody on the dark domain. If you really worship the Creator, the Master of the universe, you don't do that. You don't blame somebody else. Okay? They can't control me. But look carefully. Okay? This way or that way, doesn't matter. This finger is idol worshiping. What about this finger? This finger is pointing where? Oh God, why did you let them do this to me? That's even worse, which means when you blame somebody else, it's by the way that you're blaming the Creator. It starts with the first sin. When God is saying to Adam, did you eat from the tree I told you not to eat from? And Adam answers, the woman, okay, the woman that you gave to me, she seduced me. So, basically, when we blame somebody else, says the Zohar, we're basically bad-mouthing the Divine Spirit. We divine the Shekhinah. We bad-mouth the Shekhinah. We say, oh God, the way you created this universe is not proper. It's unjust. I was not supposed to withstand that test. I was not supposed to have that challenge, to confront that challenge. That's bad-mouthing the whole creation. Betulat Israel. Okay? The Shekhinah. Whatever is happening around us is happening for a reason. All of those events, they happen for a reason. The moment we blame another person, it's like we're blaming God. God, why did you let him do this to me? However, remember that. If this is what we do, we blame somebody else, but we're basically blaming God, two fingers. But how many fingers point at us? Three. When we do that, three point at ourselves. The majority is take your own control, take your own responsibility. But it's too much. So if you didn't understand the message, as you wage war against your enemies, he says, just you wage war. God will help you. Because only with the power of God you will take over. If you think you can take over and you win against your dark side with your own logic, with your own mind, with your own consciousness, forget it. You lost in the beginning. But if you go to the war together with God, how do you know? Let's go to the beginning of chapter 20. We read it last week. Chapter 20, verse 1. Ki-Tetse למלחמה לאויביך, as you wage war against your enemy, וראית, and you will see, סוס ורכב, a horse. Oh, my enemy? My dark side is big as a horse, and he's strong as one. ורכב. Rechev means it's a charrette in French. It's a composition. Not just that my enemy is big as a horse and strong, he's also riding over my body. Together they are all against me. Who am I? I'm Rav Mimeka. There are so many, so much powerful. There's so much forces more than me. Lo tira mehem. Do not be afraid of them. Ki Adonai Elohecha imach. Because the Lord your God is with you. The moment you wage the war and you ask every second from the light of God to come and help you against in that war, or the only thing that can destroy our enemies is the light of God. And therefore, Rabbi Ashlag is teaching us, when the Soviet Union is being established as a communist visionary of utopia, everybody would love each other and will be equality and the world will be perfect. Okay? How do you destroy greed? Oh, all greedy people should be sent to Siberia. What about corruption? All corrupted people should be executed. How many people the communist regimes around the world executed in order to create a better society? Nobody really knows, but along the 20th century, it has to be much more than 100 million people that were murdered under that great idea. And the answer is, why did they fail? Why did communism fail? Why communism will always fail? If you want to fight the evil inside yourself, or anyone wants to fight the evil inside his society without using the light of God, there's no way. You can fight corruption, abuse, addictions, any injustice, because it's all coming from ourselves. If I'm not fighting that from within with the light of God, I will never be able to win in that ongoing war, which is the only war. It's the only business we have over here. And therefore, when it says that you're not supposed to be afraid because God is with you, which means when I understand that I myself, with all my wisdom, I cannot remove my dark side, only with the light of God. How many times I saw people that everybody says they're very, very extremely wise, which means they are great professors, they wrote books, it's full of wisdom. But I look at them and they're bitter. What does that wisdom help them if they do not have happy face? If they do not have a happy life? If they're always angry about injustice and they don't have a nice moment, it's always being angry, it's a just anger, this just anger, that's idol worshiping. Only people that can love and be happy just because they're wise enough, because they overcame somehow the dark side. And that can happen only when you go to war together with God. And this is the only way, which is a very important, uh, extremely important understanding. It is so important because if we want to solve all the pains and problems of humanity, and we think that only with good, great ideas of better constitutions and better institutions, that's going to finally remove evil from people, because all the problems are coming from people and the evil within them. How could that be removed? Only when we go to the war with the light of God. Only then, because only light can remove darkness. It's not iron, light to irons. We're not fighting the Constitution. We're not fighting bad people. We are fighting darkness. We're fighting negativity, and the fight begins within. Only after I win in the battles inside, then I'm ready to be able to see who is the enemy outside. And that's the whole story, especially now when we really need the light of God to help us to get into that war that will happen in the coming weeks till we complete the work of creating the new blessings of the new year in the coming year to come, which is uh, 50, 5783, which is coming in a few weeks. This is the answer. When we look around, who can we blame? Where is the solution? We look around and we see so much injustice. We thought the world is becoming better. Yes, the world did become better. But then, from that state of peace that was created after World War II, and more than that, after the collapse of the Iron Curtain, that peace, we already completed the tikkun of that level. Now we have to give birth to a higher level of a peaceful society in order to correct it, all the dirt and the incorrections have to come up to the surface. And that's why all what we see states, institutions falling apart. People lose either hope or trust in governments, institutions, and so on. Why? Because without the light of God, you cannot fight human evil. Without fighting human evil, you cannot really improve society, education, culture, whatever. So we're right now in a painful process of humanity giving birth to its new form, and therefore all that was based on just pure logic, don't leave God out of the equation. That's what happens when you leave God out of the equation. Then all the darkness, all our enemies rise from within. And we see outside like the world is going crazy. Without the light of God, you can see only craziness. So good luck to all of us in this battle that we are making right now. It will never end, but it's concentrated in the month of Elul and in the month of Tishrei following the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, so we can simply reinvent ourselves, recreate ourselves, and will be able to unveil a better year for all of us and the whole of humanity. Thank you so much.